What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Jesse of the Abbey. It is great to be able to talk with you, man. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, the honor's all mine, man. It's great to be able to talk with you. This new album that you have coming out in February of 2023 is an absolute witch fest, as I like to call it, because this new album, Word of Sin, is absolutely kick ass. Could the first singles that we heard so far, Widow's Hill and A Thousand Dead Witches, serve as a good representation of what this whole album is going to sound like, or is this just scratching the surface of what's to come?
It's definitely just scratching the surface. I mean, my roots are in progressive rock, and we all know that there's shitloads of stuff happening in there. Uh, yeah, it's quite a variety of styles, the whole album. I think the next single as well will surprise many of you.
Being that this is the debut album for the Abbey, was there a preconceived vision of what you wanted this album to sound like, or was this a very improvisational and more like experimental process?
Um, well, I started the Abbey in May 21, and it was kind of an accident that I started it. My friend texted me if I wanted to do some guest vocals for their doom metal album. And I was like, yes, of course, why not? But after I did that, it hit me, this is what I have to do next. And so I started to record doom metal riffs, like they were totally improv. And actually, they become pretty proggy, but I still wanted to keep that, like, the intuitive and unfiltered feeling that those demos had. So the whole album is pretty much improvised. And yeah, I tried to do a doom metal album, but it ended up being maybe more prog than doom.
Well, you said that your background is in progressive doom, and that shit ain't gonna escape you, man. That's part of who you are. You'll never write a 2.5 minute song ever.
Yeah, I guess I have to live with that.
Yeah. You know what? Not the worst thing to live with, right?
Totally.
Yep. But being that everybody in the Abbey has been involved in different projects, your vocalist coming from Shape of Despair, and you coming from Henget and Turam Nata, as well as having members from Man Eating Tree, it was the intention to maybe like combine your different efforts and your different experiences into one project, or were you all kind of like distancing yourselves from previous efforts?
It most definitely was not the intention. The whole idea was to create something new. And when I made the first demos, I just had to get Vesa with me because there wasn't really any other options. His drumming is just out of this world in this style. And well, Janne came on board. Uh, he saw my social media update and just wrote me that, hey, you're going to start a doom metal band. What's that about? Then we talked, and yeah, now he's in. Uh, Bringing Natalie in was Vesa's idea, uh, and that was one hell of an idea. I'm glad it worked out. And yeah, my friend, uh, he told me about Henka, our bass player, which I had known before, but he was kind of under my radar at that point. But yeah, so it definitely isn't supposed to be like a super group or anything like that. We are just a new band.
I definitely consider it a super group because as fans of all the bands I just mentioned before and everything like that, I do think that this was almost kind of like a match made in heaven in a way.
Yeah, well, it was pretty nice to have all these people.
Yeah, you,
What else can I say?
yeah, you got definitely the darkest super group I could say. I'll definitely tell you that much. Yeah. Yeah. Um, when it comes though to being an artist who's played with multiple bands, does the creative process change depending on which band you're playing with? Was this a completely different mind frame than what we heard off of Henget and Internum Nata, or was this a completely different mind frame, or is there a usual method behind the madness that almost kind of like applies to all of the projects you play in?
The Abbey album was the first one I made with like totally improvised. I mean, I really didn't plan the songs at all. But after that, that's the only way I've been doing music anymore. It seems like I have found my way to letting the music out from me.
And so there's almost no turning back.
No, no, it's improv.
Fair enough. But even though that it is a very improvisational process, is the riffs that we hear and the music that we're hearing, is this reflective of an emotion that you were like feeling at a particular time in a way? Or, like, was there
Yeah,
any sort of
definitely.
okay? So there was plenty of experience that you were channeling into your hand with the making of the music, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And how do you know though when something does stick though if it's very improvisational?
Well, nowadays I usually just tick on to everything. uh, I guess my mind was in the right place at the moment when I started to write the Abbey album. I was just recovering from severe depression, and so my head was kind of an emotional thunderstorm, and I got to channel this stuff through music, and I guess I succeeded pretty well. And yeah, so that's how I pretty much found my way to do music from now on.
When you but when you play those riffs again and when you play them live or you have to track them, I think it's very cathartic that you use your darkness as a means of expression. But can that also maybe make the songwriting process a little bit deteriorating if you're kind of surrounding yourself with bad memories in order to execute these songs?
Yeah, but that's something everybody should deal with.
I guess you could say that, right? um,
Yeah. I don't know. I feel actually relieved now when I look back and play those riffs. I'm just happy that it all came out.
And how do you know though when you're finished with a specific song or a specific riff in a way when you feel like you've said everything you had to say?
I guess I don't. uh, that's a good question. I have to think about it. Really,
Please.
haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
But there are like 10 tracks in the album, as well as my newest solo album, which was made pretty much the same way. So there is a stop somewhere, but I don't know how do I notice when it's the time to stop. I don't know.
Is it
Need
be-
to think about it.
is it better if everybody in the Abbey is really on the same page and feels the same way about a song? Is it better if everybody does feel the same way about a song, or could different opinions and different attachments or different ideas maybe actually help add contrast and maybe bring new ideas into the Abbey if you're all in your own individual worlds?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a positive thing to have five people with with their own ideas and own views. Uh, Also, our our sound engineer, the mixing guy and recording guy, Kyösti Rautio, he did an amazing job when he gave his ideas and opinions outside the band. I consider him as the sixth member of the group at the moment. His impact is just priceless.
Yeah. I've always said that the mixer or the producer is the fifth Beatle, the sixth Beatle. If you're in Slipknot, the 10th Beatle.
Yeah,
So, they're always, that's almost a form of instrumentation in itself.
yeah, definitely.
In order to get that inspiration to write, as you mentioned that you started writing riffs for the Abbey and your solo work in a very dark place, but do you almost seek out inspiration or look for inspiration, or does inspiration strike out of the blue for you?
Um, it strikes, and when it strikes, you really can't escape it. You just have to have pen and paper with you all the time. uh, I get a lot of ideas just after I wake up. That's probably the most creative time of the day for me. So it's kind of this liminal stage between dream and wakefulness.
Do you find it though that maybe like the longer you work on something, the harder it is to sort of like maintain the emotion or the idea that initially sparked the idea?
Mm, yeah, I guess so. Uh, yeah, I almost never go back to a song after I feel like I have nothing to give anymore. So yeah, it's kind of the heat of the moment, and that's it.
Yeah, and especially because with the prog background and having to write songs that are much on a longer side, I'd imagine that keeping that moment was probably a challenge, right?
Yeah, you could say. Well, we have one song that takes a whole side of an LP in the record.
Right. um, when it come when it comes to songwriting as well, is it do you prefer to write alone in isolation when there's nothing between you and your instrumentation in a way, or do you prefer to write when you're more in the company of your own bandmates?
Uh, Definitely alone. Uh, yeah, that's for sure. I maybe in the studio for like a day, like the whole day, I forget to eat, and I'm so sucked into the whole song making process. Uh, I guess you could say it's kind of a flow thing.
That and most people I ask this question to. I think I've asked hundreds of people this question, and I think there's only been two where people say, "No, we like to write when we're together." So
Yeah.
yeah, so
No, not my cup of tea anymore. Well, when I was younger, that was the most efficient way to do songs, but not anymore.
yeah, of course, especially with the advent of every bit of technology we have now. It's like, oh, I don't have to be around people this much. Why? Yeah. Um,
Yeah. That suits my Finnish mindset.
right. um, but when it comes to every song that's on here, whether it be Queen of Pain or Desert Temple or old ones, because they do vary in length and they do seem to have different topics. I don't know if maybe this is a question for you or Natalie, but like, do you has the Abbey also approached things from a conceptual standpoint? Like A Thousand Dead Witches, I feel like is taking inspiration from either the Salem witch trials or many different historical elements. So, is there a lot of different? Does every song have its own individual meaning, or is there a theme that applies to this entire album?
Uh, no, there's not a specific theme on Word of Sin. at least that wasn't the intention. Yeah, they are pretty much their own chapters.
Of course. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else with the Abbey that you would like to promote with the release of this new album, Word of Sin? Is there a chance you could bring this to the U.S. for a show? We'd love to have you guys here.
We would love to come. At the moment, I can't really say anything about future shows, but there definitely will be some.
Yeah, we would love to have you here. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with the
Cool.
Abbey. Be sure to check out Word of Sin, coming out February 17th of 2023 via Season of Mist. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.